Do you think celebrities truly have everything? The fame, the money, the luxury, the illusion of a perfect life. But there's one thing no fortune, no influence, and no spotlight can ever purchase: health. Behind Hollywood's glamour, 27 black stars were struck by illnesses so rare and brutal that even doctors struggled to understand them. Some collapsed without warning, right in front of screaming crowds. Others spent their entire lives fighting invisible battles, from childhood to their final breath. These weren't ordinary sicknesses. They were silent destroyers that stole voices, bodies, careers, and lives. So what vicious diseases haunted these icons? How did they fight? And how did some of them lose? Prepare yourself. These stories are heartbreaking, shocking, and deeply human. You may want tissues nearby before we begin. Number 1. Bernie Mac. Behind the explosive laughter that made millions forget their worries, Bernie Mac was fighting a silent, merciless enemy. To the world, he was fearless, loud, and unstoppable, a comedy legend whose voice filled theaters and television screens. But off stage, his body was slowly breaking down under the weight of a rare and incurable disease. The battle began in 1983. Bernie Mac was only 26 years old, hungry for success, and climbing the comedy circuit when his health suddenly started to fail. He developed relentless coughing fits, crushing fatigue, and shortness of breath so severe that every inhale felt like a punishment. At first, he brushed it off, assuming it was just a cold or exhaustion from chasing his dreams. The truth was devastating. Doctors diagnosed him with sarcoidosis, a condition where the immune system attacks the body itself. In Bernie's case, inflammatory masses spread through his lungs, eyes, liver, and even his heart. The disease is known to be especially aggressive in African Americans, and it showed no mercy to him. Yet Bernie refused to slow down. Instead, he pushed harder. In 2001, the Bernie Mac Show premiered and turned him into a cultural icon. While fans laughed, Bernie endured sleepless nights, chronic pain, and moments where breathing felt like drowning. By 2005, the disease tightened its grip. He began coughing up blood, his lungs severely damaged. Still, he kept working. In 2007, while filming Soul Men, Bernie collapsed, gasping for air. His lungs were beyond repair. On August 9, 2008, Bernie Mac took his final breath, leaving behind a legacy of laughter born from unimaginable pain. Number 2. Danny Glover. Behind the calm authority and strength that defined his Hollywood career, Danny Glover once lived with a fear that threatened to destroy his future before it even began. Known worldwide as an action icon from the Lethal Weapon series, Glover spent his early life battling epilepsy, a condition that turned everyday moments into terrifying uncertainty and nearly buried his dreams. The ordeal began in the 1950s in San Francisco, when Danny was still a child. Without warning, he suffered his first seizure at home. His body stiffened, his eyes rolled back, and foam gathered at his mouth as he collapsed. His mother, frozen in fear, could do nothing but hold him. That moment marked the start of years filled with dread. As he grew older, the seizures became unpredictable and public. They struck in classrooms, on busy streets, and in front of crowds. People panicked. Friends grew distant. Teachers were unsure how to help. Danny lived under constant tension, never knowing when his body would betray him again. The fear was not only physical but deeply psychological, shaping his confidence and sense of safety. Still, Danny refused to let epilepsy define his life. Aware that Hollywood had little tolerance for vulnerability, he chose silence. He trained himself to recognize the early warning signs, a strange tingling sensation spreading through his body. When it came, he focused on his breathing, clenched his fists, and forced himself to stay grounded, fighting the seizure with sheer discipline. Then, almost inexplicably, the seizures stopped as he entered adulthood. Doctors had no explanation. The odds of spontaneous recovery were nearly impossible, 1 in 100,000. Now in his 70s, Danny Glover still remembers that fear. It may never fully vanish, but it no longer controls him. Number 3. Winnie Harlow. Winnie Harlow's rise to global fame did not begin with glamour or applause. It began with a disease that once made the world turn its back on her. Unlike traditional fashion icons, Winnie did not fit the industry's narrow definition of beauty. Her skin carried the unmistakable patterns of vitiligo, a condition that strips pigment from the body and leaves behind stark contrasts. What many once mocked as a flaw would later become her greatest signature. Her story started in childhood. At just 4 years old, her mother noticed pale patches forming around her mouth and eyes. At first it seemed harmless, but as the patches spread and her skin divided into sharp shades of light and dark, fear set in. Doctors delivered the diagnosis: vitiligo, rare, unpredictable, untreatable. No one could say where it would spread next or when it would stop. School quickly became a battlefield. Classmates stared, whispered, and pointed. Some called her a cow, others a freak, even contagious. Friends disappeared. The cruelty cut deep, and the isolation was crushing. Winnie withdrew, dropped out of school, and spent long periods hiding away, sinking into depression. At her lowest point, she questioned whether life was even worth continuing. Everything changed in 2014. Against all expectations, she stepped onto the stage of America's Next Top Model. Few believed a girl with vitiligo could survive, let alone succeed, in fashion's polished, unforgiving world. But Winnie didn't just survive. She stood out. The industry took notice. Designers like Marc Jacobs and Dior embraced her. Vogue put her on its pages. Victoria's Secret sent her down their runway. The condition once labeled a curse became the very mark that set her apart. Vitiligo is more than a skin condition. It carries emotional scars, autoimmune risks, and lifelong battles with self-worth. Many never escape its shadow. Winnie Harlow did, and in doing so, redefined beauty for the world. Number 4. Charlie Murphy. Behind the fearless humor that made audiences laugh, Charlie Murphy was fighting a battle no one saw coming. Known to many as Eddie Murphy's brother, Charlie was far more than a famous sibling. He was a respected comedian, a former U.S. Navy serviceman, and a man known for his toughness and resilience. But even that strength could not stop a sudden ruthless disease, acute myeloid leukemia, or AML. In late 2016, Charlie began feeling unusually exhausted. His body ached constantly, his skin grew pale, and simple tasks left him drained. At first, he blamed overwork. Then the warning signs became impossible to ignore. Bruises appeared without reason, and his weight dropped rapidly, nearly 20 pounds in just a few months. Something was terribly wrong. In early 2017, doctors confirmed the devastating truth. Charlie had AML, one of the most aggressive forms of blood cancer. Tests revealed a rare genetic mutation, such as FLT3 or NPM1, which made the disease even harder to treat. Only a small number of cases like his are diagnosed each year worldwide, and the odds of survival are painfully low. Charlie didn't hesitate. He began chemotherapy immediately, knowing AML spreads at terrifying speed. Even with treatment, the 5-year survival rate barely reaches 30%. The weeks that followed were brutal. He endured intense pain, hair loss, nausea, and crippling weakness. Still, he stayed true to his spirit, cracking jokes and lifting others even as his own strength faded. Charlie kept his illness private, refusing to be seen as vulnerable. On April 12, 2017, after only months of fighting, he passed away in a New York hospital. When the news broke, Hollywood stood still, stunned by how quickly a hidden disease had stolen a beloved voice. Number 5. Tian T. Boz Watkins. Tian T. Boz Watkins is not only an R&B icon, she is a living contradiction to a death sentence that followed her for more than 50 years. As a member of TLC, the best-selling female group of the 1990s, she stood at the center of global fame. But behind the flashing lights and sold-out arenas, She was fighting a private war with sickle cell disease, SCD, a rare and potentially fatal blood disorder that could strike without warning. Her battle began when she was just 7 years old. Sudden waves of pain tore through her bones and joints, as if her body were burning from the inside. Breathing became difficult. Blood cells clumped together, blocking veins and turning simple movement into agony. When doctors finally diagnosed her, their words were cold and devastating. She would not live past 30. A child who barely understood death had been handed a countdown. Growing up meant hospitals instead of playgrounds. While others ran free, Tian learned how to endure pain, needles, and fear. But she refused to live as a victim. She chose to fight. In 1991, she joined Lisa Left Eye Lopes and Rosanda Chili Thomas to form TLC. The group exploded into superstardom, but success came at a brutal cost. T-Boz collapsed from exhaustion on stage, fainted backstage, and spent countless nights in hospital rooms. At one point, complications became so severe her kidneys nearly failed. Doctors warned her that continuing this pace could kill her sooner than predicted. In 2000, she faced an even greater risk: pregnancy. Doctors panicked, warning she might die during childbirth. Still, she pressed forward, enduring unimaginable pain to give birth to her daughter, Chase Rollison, followed by nearly a year of recovery. The disease never stopped testing her. In 2006, severe pneumonia nearly ended her life once again. Many believed she wouldn't survive. Today, at 54, an age once thought impossible, Tian T-Boz Watkins is still here. Her life stands as undeniable proof that no diagnosis, no prediction, and no so-called prophecy has the final say over a human destiny. Number 6. Hank Gathers. Hank Gathers was a force on the basketball court, one of the most electrifying talents of the late 1980s. Fearless and explosive, he played with an intensity that made him nearly unstoppable. At the height of his career, no one imagined his rise would end not with celebration but with sudden tragedy. The first warning came in December 1989. During a game against UC Santa Barbara, Gathers stepped to the free throw line, released the shot, and suddenly collapsed. His body convulsed as the arena froze in shock. Moments later, he regained consciousness, smiling and insisting he was fine, eager to keep playing. But doctors knew something was terribly wrong. Medical tests revealed hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, HCM, a dangerous heart condition where the heart muscle thickens abnormally, restricting blood flow and creating a constant risk of sudden death. He was prescribed medication to control his heart rhythm, but the side effects slowed him down and drained his explosiveness. Unwilling to accept a diminished version of himself, Hank secretly reduced his dosage, a decision that would prove fatal. On March 4, 1990, Gathers took the court against Portland, determined to prove he was still dominant. After delivering a powerful dunk, he jogged back on defense. Then he stumbled. Seconds later, he collapsed face first onto the hardwood. The arena fell silent. Medics rushed to his side, performing CPR as teammates and fans watched in disbelief. This time, he never got back up. 90 minutes later, doctors pronounced Hank Gathers dead. His heart had failed him at the peak of his promise, leaving the basketball world stunned and forever changed. Number 7. Laila Ali. Laila Ali was never just Muhammad Ali's daughter. Inside the boxing ring, she became a force of her own, an undefeated champion with a flawless 24-0 record, a woman who fought with power, precision, and fearlessness. To the public, she looked invincible, but even after she walked away from boxing, another fight was waiting, one far more brutal and invisible. In 2007, following her 24th consecutive victory, Laila Ali stunned fans by retiring without warning. Many assumed she had simply conquered the sport and moved on. The real reason was far darker. Years before her retirement, her body had begun sending alarming signals. Her mouth became painfully dry, water offering no relief. Her eyes burned constantly. As if filled with sand, her skin tightened and cracked, sometimes splitting open. Then the pain spread. Her joints began to ache relentlessly, especially her fingers. The hands that once delivered crushing punches now felt like they were being crushed themselves. Training became unbearable. She visited doctor after doctor, searching for answers. Some dismissed her symptoms as dehydration, others blamed exhaustion, and a few suggested it was all in her head. Eventually, the truth emerged. Layla was diagnosed with Sjogren's syndrome, a rare autoimmune disease in which the immune system attacks the body's moisture-producing glands. There is no cure, only lifelong management. It doesn't kill quickly, but it slowly breaks you down, piece by piece. Without saliva to protect her teeth, they weakened and became vulnerable. Her joints stiffened daily. Some mornings she couldn't even make a fist. The exhaustion was overwhelming, a deep fatigue that rest couldn't fix. Yet quitting was never in her nature. Layla Ali changed her diet, sought treatments to manage her symptoms, and transformed her struggle into a mission. Today she uses her voice to raise awareness about Sjogren's syndrome, proving that even outside the ring, a true fighter never stops fighting. Number 8. Niakim Gatwek. In the world of fashion, Niakim Gatwek is more than a model. She is a mystery that challenges everything people think they know about beauty. Often called the Queen of the Dark, her extraordinarily deep black skin is unlike anyone else's. So intense is her pigmentation that many believe she may have a rare condition known as hypermelanosis, in which the body produces melanin far beyond normal levels, creating skin so dark it appears to absorb light. Her journey, however, was never easy. Growing up, Gatwek was relentlessly mocked. People hurled cruel insults, calling her a black hole monster and claiming she was cursed. The words cut deep, pushing her to the brink of self-doubt. At one point, she even considered bleaching her skin just to fit into a world that rejected her difference. Instead, she made a defining choice. She would embrace what made her unique. When Niakim entered the modeling industry, her appearance sent shockwaves. Her skin tone was so rare that even dermatologists were puzzled. Some specialists suspect she may have full-body hypermelanosis, a phenomenon almost unheard of in medical history. Typically, hypermelanosis appears in patches or spots, but in Gatwek's case, the pigmentation appears evenly across her entire body. If confirmed, she could be the first known case without any underlying illness. Despite the scientific debate, Gatwek remains unwavering. She has turned ridicule into power and rejection into pride. Today she stands as a global beauty icon, breaking outdated standards and inspiring millions. Science may still search for answers, but one truth is undeniable. Niakim Gatwek is a rare force of nature, redefining beauty in its boldest, darkest, and most fearless form. Number 9. Gary Coleman. Hollywood once fell in love with a small boy who had a big personality and an unforgettable catchphrase, "What you talking about, Willis?" That boy was Gary Coleman, the breakout star of Different Strokes. On television, he was quick-witted and full of charm. In real life, his body was locked in a battle it could never win. Gary was born with a rare congenital kidney disease, believed to be nephronophthisis, a condition so uncommon it affects about 1 in 100,000 children. From the beginning, it robbed him of normal growth. While other kids grew taller, Gary's development stalled. He would remain just 4 feet 8 inches tall for the rest of his life. Worse, the disease steadily destroyed his kidneys, forcing him onto dialysis at a very young age. Despite his fragile health, fame arrived early. At just 10 years old, Gary became one of the highest-paid child stars in Hollywood. But success came with hidden suffering. He underwent 2 kidney transplants, and both failed. Anti-rejection medications caused severe side effects, leaving him in constant pain and physical distress. Even as an adult, he still looked like a child, trapped in an image the industry refused to let go. When Different Strokes ended, opportunities vanished. Behind the scenes, his adoptive parents and manager misused much of his fortune. By 1999, Gary filed for bankruptcy as his health continued to deteriorate. In 2010, a fall at home caused a brain hemorrhage. He slipped into a coma and died at 42, a star frozen in childhood, undone by a disease that never let him grow up. Number 10. Michael Jackson. The mysterious illness that changed the king of pop forever. Michael Jackson remains one of the most iconic figures in music history, a once-in-a-generation talent with an otherworldly voice, gravity-defying dance moves, and a fan base that spanned the globe. Yet behind the glittering performances and record-breaking albums, Michael became the subject of one of the most intense and cruel obsessions in pop culture, the transformation of his appearance. The world watched in disbelief as the young black boy from the Jackson 5 gradually changed into a man with strikingly pale skin. Speculation exploded. Whispers of skin bleaching, extreme surgery, and self-hatred dominated tabloids for decades. But the reality was far more tragic and far less understood. Michael Jackson was suffering from vitiligo, a rare autoimmune disorder that destroys the skin's natural pigment. In the early 1980s, at the height of his fame, Michael noticed small white patches appearing on his body. At first, he concealed them with makeup and stage lighting. But vitiligo does not stop. It spreads relentlessly. As Thriller conquered the world, the disease quietly took over his body. By the late 1980s, the pigment loss had become impossible to hide. The media, hungry for scandal, twisted the narrative, accusing him of trying to erase his identity. The truth was far more painful. Doctors eventually recommended depigmentation therapy, an aggressive medical treatment designed to remove the remaining pigment so his skin tone would appear uniform. The consequences were devastating. His skin became dangerously sensitive to sunlight. His immune system weakened. Chronic pain, insomnia, and emotional isolation followed. Public scrutiny pushed him deeper into anxiety and dependence on medication. In 2009, while rehearsing for This Is It, Michael collapsed from an overdose of powerful sedatives. The autopsy revealed a haunting fact: his body had completely lost all pigmentation. For decades, he was judged instead of understood. Only after his death did the world fully grasp the illness that reshaped him. Michael Jackson was not trying to change who he was. He was fighting a disease while carrying the weight of global fame. His body suffered, but his legacy did not. His music remains eternal. Number 11. Chadwick Boseman. Black Panther and the Silent War that claimed a king. Chadwick Boseman was more than a Hollywood star. He was a symbol of pride, strength, and legacy. From embodying Jackie Robinson's courage to redefining heroism as T'Challa in Black Panther, every performance carried weight to the world. He was Wakanda's unbreakable king. But behind the scenes, Chadwick was fighting a brutal enemy few ever suspected, a rare and aggressive form of colon cancer. Colon cancer is uncommon in young adults, accounting for only 2 to 4% of cases. That rarity made it even more dangerous. In 2016, just as his career was exploding, Boseman received devastating news: stage 3 colon cancer. The disease is notorious for its silence. It often grows undetected, masking itself behind vague symptoms: unexplained weight loss, persistent fatigue, mild abdominal pain. Like many driven professionals, Chadwick brushed them off as exhaustion from relentless work. By the time the truth surfaced, the cancer had already tightened its grip. What followed was nothing short of extraordinary. Instead of retreating from the spotlight, Boseman chose to endure. Over the next 4 years, he filmed some of the biggest movies in the world, including Black Panther and Avengers: Endgame. Between takes, he underwent surgeries and chemotherapy, enduring nausea, pain, and physical decline, all while keeping his diagnosis private. On screen, he radiated power. Off-screen, he was fighting for survival. By 2020, the illness had advanced to its final stage. Photos of his thinning frame circulated online, sparking cruel jokes and speculation. Few paused to consider the truth. They didn't know the man they mocked was running out of time. On August 28, 2020, the world was stunned. Chadwick Boseman had died at just 43 years old. Wakanda's king had fallen, not to a fictional villain, but to a quiet, relentless disease. His strength, however, lives on, etched forever in the legacy he left behind. Number 12, Pharrell Williams. Forever young, scientific anomaly or supernatural mystery, Pharrell Williams isn't just a music icon, he's a phenomenon. With a career spanning decades, from frontin' to the global smash Happy, he has dominated pop culture with creativity and vision. But beyond his music, one question continues to fascinate the world. Why doesn't Pharrell seem to age? Time leaves marks on everyone. Faces change, wrinkles appear, bodies slow down, yet Pharrell appears immune. In 2003, he looked like a man in his 20s. In 2013, almost identical. By 2024, nearing 50, his appearance remained virtually unchanged, defying biology's expectations. Naturally, theories followed. Some scientists suggest he may possess an extremely rare genetic condition known as delayed aging syndrome, which slows cellular degeneration far beyond normal rates. Research often highlights the FOXO3 gene, associated with longevity and youthful appearance in a small number of people. Pharrell, many believe, could carry this genetic advantage. Others are unconvinced by science alone. Throughout history, people who appeared ageless sparked myths and suspicion. Online whispers joke about supernatural explanations, vampires, secret rituals, or deals made beyond human understanding. Science or mystery, blessing or curse, Pharrell Williams remains an enigma. His face resists time, and his story stands as one of pop culture's most intriguing modern legends. Number 13, Richard Pryor. From comedy king to a silent prison, Richard Pryor sets 20-year tragedy. Richard Pryor was a titan of American comedy, with fearless storytelling, brutal honesty, and sharp social satire. He transformed stand-up forever. Audiences loved his courage and authenticity. But while the world laughed, Pryor was entering a long, devastating battle that would trap him inside his own body for nearly 2 decades. In the late 1970s, at the height of his fame, strange symptoms began to surface. Pryor stumbled unexpectedly on stage. His legs stiffened. His hands trembled so badly he struggled to hold the microphone. Surrounded by years of alcohol and drug use, he assumed these episodes were simply the consequences of his lifestyle. That illusion shattered in 1986. Doctors diagnosed him with multiple sclerosis, a rare neurological disease that attacks the central nervous system. MS slowly strips away muscle control, balance, and speech. For Pryor, the diagnosis was crushing. This wasn't self-inflicted damage. It was a progressive illness with no cure. As the years passed, his body became a prison. By 1992, he relied on a wheelchair. By 1995, his once commanding voice, the weapon that built his legacy, began to fade. By 1999, Pryor was nearly immobile, unable to walk or speak. The man who once filled rooms with laughter could only watch the world in silence. On December 10, 2005, Richard Pryor died from a heart attack at 65. Officially sudden, but in truth, multiple sclerosis had been stealing him piece by piece for decades. Number 14, Lamar Odom. A brush with death caused by a rare kidney disease. Lamar Odom once stood at the peak of NBA greatness. A 2-time champion with the Los Angeles Lakers and the 2011 Sixth Man of the Year, he appeared unstoppable. But behind the fame and success, his life was quietly collapsing. Beyond addiction and tabloid headlines, Odom was fighting a far deadlier threat, a rare kidney disease slowly destroying his body. In 2015, everything reached a breaking point. After a near-fatal drug overdose at a Nevada brothel, Odom was rushed to the hospital in critical condition. His heart stopped twice. He suffered 12 strokes and 6 heart attacks. Death came frighteningly close. Doctors then revealed the deeper damage. His kidneys were barely functioning. He was diagnosed with focal segmental glomulosclerosis, FSGS, a rare condition that attacks the kidney's filtering system and often leads to end-stage renal failure. Dialysis became unavoidable. His body weakened. His basketball career was over. Odom survived, but he was forever changed. The dominant NBA star faded into a shadow of his former self, a reminder of how quickly success can vanish when illness takes control. Number 15, Tevin Campbell, the R&B prodigy who vanished amid whispers of a deadly illness. In the 1990s, Tevin Campbell was one of R&B's most dazzling stars, hailed as the heir to Michael Jackson. His smooth, soaring vocals powered classics like Can We Talk, Tell Me What You Want Me to Do, and I'm Ready. He seemed destined for superstardom until, at the peak of his success, he disappeared. No scandal, no public meltdown, just silence. Fans were left stunned. Rumors rushed in to fill the void, but one theory stood out for its severity: spinal meningitis, a rare, fast-moving disease capable of paralyzing the body, damaging nerves, stealing voices, and even killing. In the late 90s, unsettling signs reportedly emerged. Campbell suffered crushing headaches, an unusually stiff neck, unexplained fevers, and a deep, unnatural fatigue. Most alarming of all, his voice began to change. The pristine high notes that defined his sound became shaky and unreliable. The music industry is unforgiving, but stress alone rarely causes such symptoms. Spinal meningitis, an infection that inflames the brain and spinal cord, can permanently damage the nervous system. If left untreated, it carries a fatality rate of up to 50%. Survivors may lose fine motor control, including vocal precision. For a singer, that loss can be career-ending. By 2001, Campbell had vanished entirely. He never publicly addressed his health, fueling speculation that he underwent long-term treatment for a neurological condition. When he resurfaced in the 2010s, his presence was quieter. His voice was weaker, the signature highs largely gone. Asked about his absence, Campbell said he sought peace away from pressure. But fans still wonder, was it simply a choice, or did a devastating illness quietly change his life forever? Number 16, Tisha Campbell, the sarcoidosis nightmare that nearly destroyed her life. Tisha Campbell, the beloved 90s sitcom star of Martin, was known for her bright smile and infectious energy. To fans, she looked healthy and unstoppable. But behind the scenes, her life was unraveling. Campbell was battling sarcoidosis, a rare autoimmune disease that can attack the lungs, heart, and nervous system. In the early 2000s, her body began to fail her. Extreme fatigue set in. Constant pain followed. Shortness of breath left her struggling to get through scenes on set. When doctors diagnosed sarcoidosis, the fear was immediate. There was no cure, and the disease could lead to organ failure or even death. For an actress and singer, lung damage threatened everything. Performing felt like pressure crushing her chest, her voice growing weaker. Still, Campbell refused to quit. She adapted her life, fought daily, and learned to live with the disease. Today she remains standing, resilient, determined, and strong. Number 17, Missy Elliott, a breathless battle with a disease that seized control of her body. Missy Elliott is a hip-hop legend, a fearless innovator, visionary producer, and artist who shattered every rule placed before her. But behind the explosive hits and bold creativity, Missy was locked in a terrifying fight with Graves' disease, a rare overactive thyroid disorder capable of sending the heart into overdrive, weakening muscles, and stealing control of the body. Left untreated, it can be fatal. By 2008, the warning signs were impossible to ignore. She lost weight rapidly. Her heart raced uncontrollably. Her hands trembled so violently she couldn't even drive. In 2009, Doctors confirmed she had Graves' disease in a dangerous stage. Missy vanished from the public eye, retreating into a quiet battle for survival. Against the odds, she endured treatment, reclaimed her strength, and returned to the spotlight, not diminished, but reborn. Today, her comeback stands as proof that even legends can fall and rise stronger than ever. Number 18, Karen Clark shared. Given a 2% chance, she refused to die. Karen Clark shared, the golden voice of gospel and a powerhouse member of the Clark sisters, once stood face to face with death. It wasn't scandal or career collapse that brought her there, but a devastating diagnosis: endometrial cancer, rare, aggressive, and striking her far earlier than expected. It was a silent sentence few saw coming. In the late 1990s, warning signs crept in: intense abdominal pain, crushing fatigue, irregular menstrual cycles. Like many women juggling purpose and pressure, she dismissed it as stress. But when doctors confirmed cancer, her world shattered. This disease typically targets women over 50. Karen was far younger. In 2001, she faced surgery with almost no hope. Doctors gave her just a 2% chance of survival. During the operation, her heart stopped. She technically died and came back. Against every medical expectation, Karen survived. She healed, she sang again, and she returned to the stage not just alive but victorious, a living testimony of faith, resilience, and defiance against the impossible. Number 19, Reggie White. A horrific respiratory collapse that claimed a football legend. Reggie White was a giant of the NFL, a defensive force whose power and presence terrified opponents. On the field, he seemed indestructible. But the threat that ended his life didn't come from bone-crushing hits. It came from sarcoidosis, a rare and insidious disease quietly attacking his lungs and heart. In 2004, only a few years after retiring, White suddenly collapsed at home. He struggled desperately for air as pain tore through his body. By the time paramedics arrived, there was nothing they could do. He was gone. The autopsy revealed a devastating truth. Sarcoidosis had been ravaging his lungs for years, silently and undetected. One of football's greatest legends was lost not to the game, but to a hidden illness, a chilling reminder of how deadly this rare disease can be. Number 20, Orlando Jones. A rare illness that nearly claimed his life. Orlando Jones, actor, writer, and comedian, stunned Hollywood not with controversy, but with a hidden medical battle few ever saw coming. While rare among black people, celiac disease turned his body into an enemy. As his career surged in the 2000s, his health quietly collapsed. Every meal triggered agony, as if his insides were being torn apart. He lost nearly 40 pounds in a single year. Hospital visits became routine. Exhaustion, relentless diarrhea, and severe pain left him fearing he might not survive. For more than a decade, doctors misdiagnosed him, allowing the disease to silently destroy his digestive system. When the truth finally emerged, the damage was severe. His gut was heavily scarred, and his cancer risk had skyrocketed. To survive, Jones was forced to completely rebuild his life, starting with a strict gluten-free diet. It wasn't fame that saved him. It was finally being heard. Number 21, Flo Hyman. Collapsing mid-game, the sudden death that stunned the volleyball world. Flo Hyman was the towering force of American volleyball, a 6'5" phenom who led her team to a historic Olympic silver medal. On the court, she looked invincible, but hidden within that powerful frame was a silent threat: Marfan syndrome, a rare genetic disorder capable of causing the aorta to rupture without warning. On January 24, 1986, tragedy struck during a match in Japan. In the middle of play, Hyman suddenly collapsed, clutching her chest before falling motionless to the floor. Teammates and officials froze as the unthinkable unfolded. Within minutes, she was gone. An autopsy later revealed the devastating truth. Her aorta had burst instantly, ending a remarkable career and a brilliant life in the blink of an eye. Number 22, Toni Braxton. The R&B queen's life or death battle with a deadly disease. Toni Braxton, the legendary voice behind Unbreak My Heart, shocked the world not only with her music, but with a terrifying fight for survival. Behind the fame, she was battling systemic lupus erythematosus, a rare autoimmune disease that silently attacked her body. In 2008, just before a Las Vegas performance, Toni suddenly collapsed. Her heart raced dangerously. Her body stiffened, her breathing weakened. She was rushed to the hospital, where doctors discovered myocarditis, a life-threatening lupus complication affecting her heart. She came frighteningly close to death. When she regained consciousness, doctors delivered a harsh reality. Lupus had no cure. It wasn't temporary. It was a lifelong war, one where every day alive would be a victory. Number 23, Earl Campbell. A football legend's brutal battle with a mysterious neurological threat. Earl Campbell, the Tyler Rose, was once the embodiment of raw power, a human battering ram who punished defenses with unmatched force. For years, his body seemed indestructible, but after his glory days faded, that same iron frame began to betray him in frightening ways. By the late 1990s, unsettling signs appeared. His legs trembled without warning. Strength drained from his muscles, relentless pain followed him day and night. At first, it looked like the inevitable cost of countless violent collisions. But as the neurological symptoms intensified, doctors feared a darker possibility, ALS, a ruthless disease with no cure that has already taken the lives of other former football stars. Number 24, Stuart Scott. A life or death battle with an ultra-rare cancer. Stuart Scott, the iconic voice of ESPN, was more than a sports anchor, he was a fighter. With his bold, energetic style, he transformed sports broadcasting and inspired millions. But away from the cameras, Scott was locked in a brutal war for his life. In 2007, what began as mild stomach discomfort revealed a devastating truth: appendiceal cancer, an extremely rare disease that often goes undetected until it has spread. Surgeries followed, chemotherapy followed, then relapse. Refusing to surrender, Scott trained in mixed martial arts, pushing his body against impossible odds. In 2015, the battle finally ended. Stuart Scott passed away, but his courage, resilience, and unbreakable spirit continue to inspire long after his final sign-off. And with these stories, one truth becomes impossible to ignore: wealth, fame, and success offer no protection when illness strikes. Some of these 24 black stars survived against all odds, while others were taken far too soon. Their journeys remind us how fragile life truly is. Which story stayed with you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And before you go, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next shocking deep dive behind Hollywood's glittering facade.